Hello everyone, welcome to another Draw With Me video. I actually remembered to change the mic settings this time, so go me. We love to see progress. So I thought today I would dig into the treasure trove that is my Instagram saved folder. I like to save different poses and cool portrait ideas on Instagram, mostly to make me feel like my infinite scrolling is not for nothing. So I have dug into that and started drawing some figures and portraiture today. This one is actually from Jennifer's Body. It's like the scene where Jen is like laying in her bed, and I liked that the legs were kind of foreshortened. I think it's good practice for me. But yeah, Instagram and Pinterest are pretty good places to find poses, cool faces, cool like makeup. I just find inspiration from there. I'm also trying to incorporate a little more real time into my videos. This video will be sketching in real time, and then I did speed up the inking and the coloring at the end of the video just because I didn't need this to be like 2 hours long. I think the average attention span would not tolerate that. Also, exciting development. As you can see, I have gotten an overhead camera holder. About time. The side angle, I don't think it was bad necessarily. I just like that you can get a more complete picture when it's looking straight down. So I'm pretty happy with it. Still kind of figuring out the lighting situation just because of the way my house is laid out, but yeah, I like this better, definitely. I'm liking incorporating the, seeing the stroke happen with the pencil. I'm finding that when I watch YouTube, I tend to gravitate towards videos where I'm seeing the hand make the mark. So whether that's digital, like this one, like drawing on the iPad, or watching people in their sketchbook, applying paint or markers, pencil, pen, whatever. There's nothing wrong with just showing the screen, screen recording, and people do really fun things with that. I see a lot of artists, they have like their little animated figure or like a VTuber maybe talking over that. I think that's really fun. Don't know if I'm at that level yet, maybe someday. But for right now, this is definitely the kind of content I at least like to watch, so I think it makes sense to make that kind of content. But yeah, so this video is just kind of me drawing random things that I enjoy. And, making the type of video content I enjoy. I actually really like the default pencil that the iPad, Adobe Fresco for iPad comes with. The pressure sensitivity is really nice. Also, speaking to the Jennifer's Body theme of this drawing, if you haven't seen that movie, I'm really surprised it's not more popular. I feel like it got a lot of hate when it came out. I enjoyed it. I loved everything about it, honestly. I thought it was really iconic. And the soundtrack was so good. Like, even if you didn't like the movie, the soundtrack was incredible. They had, like, Florence and the Machine. They had Panic at the Disco. Another video I plan to make soon is maybe inking a submission that I'm making for an anthology. I do hope it gets in to the anthology. It might be like a little bit off theme, but oh well, I had fun making it and I guess that's all that matters. Worst case scenario, I'll just post it somewhere. But yeah. I think I could use that as a chance to maybe talk through the specifics of my inking process. Not sure how much commentary I would have on that, just because it's like, draw a line, hatch this line, use this brush. Alright, done. No. So, I don't know, I'm sure I can find something to ramble about. That is a forte of mine. So, random thought that I wanted to talk about. I don't know why I want to talk about this, but it just felt like a fever dream. So I don't know if any of you 90s babies remember that show, As Told by Ginger. But I feel like I remember specific things from that show that were like so messed up and weird, and I was like, how did this air on television? Is this like a Mandela effect? Am I the only one that remembers this? But I was watching, basically what's making me think about this is I was watching something on TV about like an elderly woman, and then that had me thinking about this scene, well, I guess episode of As Told by Ginger, where Ginger's younger brother, who is a literal child, by the way, like middle schooler, there's this episode where he decides to like date, quote unquote, this senile like 80-something-year-old woman, and he like brings her to dinner, and the mom is obviously distraught and is like, why are you dating a senile 80-year-old woman? Like, it's obviously just really weird. I think the old lady is like really out of it and doesn't think they're dating. I don't really know. He thinks they're dating. They go to his house for dinner. It's really weird. And then the old lady just keels over and dies, like, at the dinner table. And I remember thinking, like, it like emotionally scarred me as a child. And I told someone like at work about, I was like, do you remember that episode of As Told by Ginger? And everyone was like, no. And I was like, okay, am I crazy? Like, was that just like a fever dream that I had? And then no, I literally looked it up. I looked it up on YouTube and I found it on YouTube, and I was like, okay, so I'm not crazy. Like, this was a real thing that happened. This was a real thing that aired. Like, what the hell? Who wrote that? And how many drugs were involved? But yeah, the thing that had me thinking about it was King of the Hill was on my TV today, and this old lady, like, I guess she loved Hank's house because she used to live there or something, and she was very adamant about dying in that house even though she didn't own it anymore, and like that's what made me think of like the As Told by Ginger episode. But yeah, like, if there's anything, some obscure like cartoon, I also think of those creepypastas, like, oh, what was that one, like Candles Cove, you know, and it's like, I'm pretty sure it's not real, but you know, just that feeling of like, am I the only one that remembers this? Like, was that a fever dream? It's just a weird feeling. Has nothing to do with drawing, just, you know, commentary of what's going on in my brain. This sketch, though, another topic change. This sketch is inspired by Peter Steele kissing a fan, I guess. I'll show the reference here. But yeah, I mean, I kind of took some creative liberty. It doesn't look exactly like the photo, but that's fine. I'm kind of trying to get away from doing things too realistically. But yeah. Peter Steele was so funny. Like, he had so many adoring fans, and they were just like, will you kiss me? And a lot of times he was like, yeah. Like, he just like was like, why not? Just, I don't know. It was really funny to me. I do apologize if you hear random sounds in the background. My rabbit is doing some bunstruction, as we call. Bunstruction is a term that implies it could be either construction or destruction, dependent on the will of the rabbit. So you just never know. You just hear sounds of bunstruction, and something's going on there, but you don't know what until you go look. It's usually destruction, as is their nature. Rabbits are great pets, by the way. I think they are my favorite pet I've ever had. I've had cats, I've had dogs, goldfish, birds. I am not a bird person. That was a mistake on my parents' part, adopting birds. I actually don't even know the story of why my parents adopted. They adopted 2 parakeets when I was really little, and I'm like, what was the story there? Like, I genuinely don't know what led to that. Honestly, all the pets that we had growing up have, like, weird stories. Like, I remember the first dog my parents had was kind of dumped on them by actually, I think both the first dog and the first cat were both just like dumped on them because family members like didn't want them, and my mom is really bad at saying no, I guess, so she was just like, oh, all right, I'll take them. They ended up being really good pets though, so I guess it works out. But yeah, we are not bird people. I don't know the story behind how they ended up with birds, but they just wouldn't, they would chirp like all night. Like, I was like, guys, go to sleep. Like, what do you want? Yeah, but rabbits are nice and quiet. They don't bark. They don't really make sounds very much. I mean, they make like funny little grunts every now and then, but yeah, they're not loud. They're litter trained, and even if they'd make a mess of like little poops everywhere, they're easy to clean up. You can just vacuum them. So I love that about my rabbit. They're just funny little guys, really, and they're so soft. Yeah, I think they're like a happy medium between a cat and a dog. Like, they're quiet and litter trained like a cat, but they're like fun and silly sometimes like a dog. Yeah, they're a happy medium, and you don't have to like walk them. I was talking to a coworker at my day job, and I was like, I love dogs, like, don't get me wrong, I really do love dogs, but when it's, you know, 2 a.m. and they gotta poop and it is cold and rainy, like, and you have to take them outside, it's like, that's a lot of responsibility. I don't know if I'm ready for all that. But yeah, I think that's what makes rabbits really good pets. I mean, you certainly can, like, if you can take them outside if they have a safe place to do so, but well, I guess now is as good a time as ever to talk a little more on subject of what I'm drawing. So these are characters for my comic Scorned personal comic. And kind of speaking of fever dreams and whatnot, tying it all together, we're bringing it together. A lot of this story is actually based on dreams that I've had. And that's where it gets really weird. So when I was a teenager, I don't know if it was like chronic sleep deprivation or trauma or a combination of these things, but I had very, very vivid dreams, and I was kind of known for it. At least, like, my friends at school, I mean, I'd sit down at the lunch table and be like, all right, Charlotte, like, what's the dream that you had today? So, yeah, they were just very cinematic and plot-driven. Like, there was, like, a very clear plot and, like, often a beginning, middle, and end. And it was to a point where my close friends, who I would, like, tell about these dreams and stuff, they're like, you have to write this down. They're like, this literally sounds like the plot of a movie or a comic book or whatever. And yeah, so I mean, I was just getting free ideas, you know, from my subconscious, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, Scorned is sort of a combination of kind of like Lovecraftian cosmic horror and romance, drama. But yeah, so the character that is smooching Marley here is Desmond. He's kind of based on this recurring character that kept popping up in my dreams. Kind of honestly a really creepy thing. I remember my mom reached a point where she was like kind of concerned, because she's very superstitious. She's like Catholic superstitious, and she was like, oh, if you keep having dreams about that character, like, you might be being followed by a demon or something. And I'm like, I mean, maybe. To be honest, like, he was pretty creepy. Like, hot, but evil. And that's kind of Desmond's whole thing. So I don't know how much of that is, like, spiritual influence or just an aspect of my subconscious I have maybe not yet absorbed into my consciousness, psyche. I'm not a doctor. I don't know how these things work. I am not a doctor of, you know, mental health science. That's a term. But basically, what was kind of weird about this character was, like, he kind of felt like this ex-boyfriend figure, and he would appear in a lot of my dreams. And it was really creepy because he started appearing in the dreams of my friends and family. And they would, like, describe him, and I'd be like, that's literally the same guy. And I remember for a long time I was like, am I being, like, psychically stalked right now? So that was really weird. But yeah, he was always described as, like, a man with black hair that was, like, trying to take me from them, usually. So that's, like, really creepy. I mean, that, in hindsight, like, sounds really demonic, but I just refuse to, like, live in fear, I guess. So, I don't know, I think kind of, like, giving your demons a name and, like, acknowledging that they don't have power over you is an important thing to establish if you believe in that. And I think if you don't believe in that and you just think psychologically this is just, like, something I'm dealing with in my subconscious, it's kind of the same thing, same principle. Like, you have to name your feelings, you have to name your memories. Like, you just gotta call them as they are and kind of accept them for what they are, or they'll, like, I don't know, they'll just, like, affect you, they'll control you. You know, you're in the driver's seat, so whether there's some creepy demonic influence in your life or some weird psychological influence in your life, you know, it's ultimately you that is driving, and you have to establish control. So I'm not really, like, afraid to write a character that is based on this weird dream man entity thing, because again, like, I'm in the driver's seat, I'm in control, so, you know. But yeah, so he's kind of this sort of, he's like a demonic sort of cult leader figure in the comic, and a lot of the story is Marley kind of falling for his influence at first, but then escaping the cult, realizing he's wrong, and kind of seeking revenge, but also trying to stop the cult from reaching their goals. So she has like personal beef, but then she also has like, I don't want to say cosmic level, but like she's the hero protagonist that's like, I also need to like stop this cult from doing bad things. So yeah. But yeah, I think also Desmond's character kind of speaks to the archetype archetype of the sort of dark lover, and I think a lot of us have sort of fallen for that in our waking lives, our real lives, where someone says all the right things and does all the right things at first, and you kind of fall for it, and then it turns out they're like a narcissistic abuser. I know I've dated someone like that in real life, so it's kind of that figure, I guess. But yeah, I feel like I kind of brushed over the fact that like there might have been like a literal demonic force following me and everybody dreaming about it. That's really creepy. I think the scariest dream that I had with that character was I used to have a lot of dreams about vampires, and that's also why the subject of the comic is vampires, because in a lot of my dreams there was literally like a vampire cult going on, and I was somebody that was meant to like infiltrate this cult and like disband it or something. It was kind of, I'm not clear on that. Again, this was also many years ago, but I think the scariest dream was that there was kind of this full-on assault by a bunch of vampires. They were like attacking me, they were attacking my friends, they were attacking like everybody. They were just going full like war, and I ended up severely injured in the dream. I go to the hospital. The hospital is overrun with vampires, and a nurse was like aware of like the undercurrent of what was going on. Like, this wasn't just crazy people, this was like magical. So she was aware of it, and she was kind of getting rid of the vampires and stuff, and she basically told me I had a brain injury in the dream and that I needed to go to a department upstairs, like she could not help me. So then I was like, all right, me and my squad head for the stairs. Stairs are blocked, and then the vampire guy appeared, and I remember I was just like helpless. Like, my friends were too far away from me. I was like cornered, alone, injured, and I remember I looked at him and I was just like, dude, I got nothing. Just, I'm asking you not to kill me. And then he got really close to me. Like, I remember to this day, I could like feel the prickle of his mustache like on my lip. And he was like, oh, I'm not gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill everything you love. And that's all I remember from the dream. Like, that's, I don't really remember what happened after that. I think he just like, I think I just ran off or something. And I remember in real life, things after that kind of started falling apart with my ex. So I don't know if that was like a premonition of things that were already happening that my brain was orchestrating this like story in the dream world to make sense of it, or if this was like some creepy influence. Speaking of my ex, one weird thing. So again, I come from a Catholic family, and I remember one creepy thing that happened. I had given him I think it was a Saint Benedict pendant, and it basically, it's supposed to like help exorcise demons or like something like that. Like, it's supposed to like keep demonic forces away from you. And I remember he like gave it back to me. He was like, I don't want this. And I was like, okay. Like, and again, I don't know if that's because he had plans of breaking up with me, but this was like way before we broke up, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, he like gave it back to me. I kind of thought that was like, why would you give a gift back? Like, I thought that was kind of weird. He was giving a gift back. Like, I was like, that's like for you. And then I remember too, I got him like a silver cross necklace, and he got tons of compliments on it. Everywhere we went, everyone was like, oh, that's like such a sick necklace, it looks so good, like it's like very masculine, like I don't know, like he just got tons of compliments on it. And it broke. It like snapped off of his neck. Like, it was like a thick silver chain, like a thick manly chain, and it snapped. It just, one day it just broke and fell off his neck. And it was like all the like religious stuff that I gave him, like something happened to it. And again, I'm not saying coincidences don't happen, but like that was a little bit weird. And like, I would tell people about it and they were like, nah, that's like kind of scary and kind of weird. And yeah, so I don't know if that has anything to do with these weird dreams, but kind of freaky. But back to the drawing. I'm speeding up the inking because, again, I don't want this video to be 500 million years long. Scorned also, for me, I think has a lot to do with my inner psychology. I think Desmond also represents a lot of my it's like Marley and Desmond, I think, simultaneously represent the things that I both admire and disdain about each of their genders. Like, Marley is a lot of the things I admire in women, but she also has done and participated in a lot of the things that I hate about women, and like the negative femininity I have seen in my own life. And Desmond is kind of the other side of that coin, where he is sort of, again, simultaneously what I really admire in men, but also like the horror of just like the atrocities that they are capable of and the negativity they're capable of. And that's the thing, is like equal opportunity. I mean, women can be just as, if not more, than men, trust me. I've seen it. But yeah, it's yeah, they're kind of, like I said, what I admire and what I despise about each of their genders. I think also when I consume media, sometimes I like to do this weird little experiment where I'm like, what if every character in this story is actually just a voice in the head of the writer? So like, they're all part of the same mind. And it makes media really interesting to look at it from that perspective, because I think when you write something, like, that does kind of happen. When you're a writer, like, everything you write is just you talking to yourself. So, I mean, in a way, it's kind of true. And I don't know, approaching films and comics and, like, just narrative media in general with this idea of, like, every character is a voice of the same mind is really a fun little experiment that I like to do with myself. And then it also makes me think deeper about my own psychology and, like, what is going on in here. I remember my mom always said, like, oh, you only have one bat in your belfry. And I'm like, kinda no, though. Like, you have one bat that's, like, you know, running this rodeo, but, like, and that's your conscious mind. But really, I mean, your brain is like a sponge. Your brain has absorbed a little bit of every voice that has ever spoken to you, you know? And it's kind of like we're forever haunted by some of the things that people have said about us. Like, when you talk down to yourself, especially subconsciously, it's like, well, is that you and what you believe, or is that the voice of a hater? Like, someone said something bad about you and criticized you, and that voice has stuck with you, you know? So I actually don't really believe that there's only one bat in your belfry. No, dude, there's a lot of bats up here. There's a lot of chatter. There's a lot happening in this skull. So yeah. And I think part of my healing journey with my own psychology is like identifying those other voices and thoughts. You know, they say, like, you know, you can't really control your thoughts, you can only control how you react to them. But I think it's also important to listen to the thoughts and be like, okay, is that me consciously what I believe? Or is that just something that was said to me? Is that just something that my brain spit out? Right? I'm really bad at meditating. I am not diagnosed with ADHD, but I'm pretty sure I have it. So there's just like constant cacophony of stuff happening upstairs. And yeah, lately I've been getting a lot better at like identifying self-defeating language and self-defeating thoughts and stuff. And I'll stop and I'll be like, who are you? You're a raggedy who let you in here? Because I know that's not me saying I can't do it. So who are you? And then it's really funny, actually, because my mind almost gets kind of quiet when I do that. It's like I caught the thought and I realized it's not really even mine. That's like what someone else said to me, you know, 20 years ago. Oh, well, you're never gonna make it. You're never gonna have art as a career. Or you're never gonna be the belle of the ball. I don't know. Or you're not, that attitude of like, you're not good enough or whatever. And I'm like, you're a raggedy. Like, who let her in here? Like, but it does help. It does help when I catch that and I almost pretend like it's not my thought. It's like it's a thought someone put in my head. It's not my voice. Like, that's someone else's voice in a way. Not like, you know, literally, like I'm not like hearing voices. It's just like in my head. You know, my psychiatrist says as long as the voices are in your head, like, we're good. You know, if you have voices outside of your head that are not really there, that's a different condition. You know, that needs a different address. But yeah, so identifying self-defeating language and calling it out for what it is, someone else's idea to put you down, I think that's really important. And it has helped me infinitely. There's a YouTuber, I forget her name. It's like Elizabeth something. She's great, but she always says, you know, don't believe everything you think. And for me, as someone who's kind of struggled with like feeling emotions and like just letting thoughts like pass, everything like that, I think acknowledging like I feel, you know, like I'm not good enough or whatever it is, but feelings aren't facts. I've felt this way before and it wasn't true. That also helps me like so much when I catch that and I'm kind of like, yeah, I feel like a dumpster fire right now, but feelings aren't facts. I am not in fact a dumpster fire. You know, so that talking to myself that way definitely helps a lot. I would be really interested in the comments if you guys wanted to talk more about, like, do you believe in the paranormal and like all that stuff, like spiritual and even like the spooky demonic stuff, or like do you just feel like that's a psychological thing that only humanity deals with? Because like I see both sides. Like I personally feel that health is very much like it is mind, body, and soul. I believe health is threefold, 3 parts, right? And like when one thing is thrown off, the other things start to get thrown off too. So like physical health is obvious. Like we can't deny when you are physically ill or like something's off. Like we have to address that 100%. Like you know, medicine is real, science is real. But the mind also affects the body. You know, if you're mentally very stressed, that's gonna come out in your body. And we know that for a fact. So if you believe in the spirit,